Less than 9 minutes from polls closing in West Virginia, and Fox is tracking the numbers coming in. And as soon as there is news, you will hear it right here first. And this may shock you, or worse, it may terrify you. The number of U.S. Army soldiers on active duty is at its lowest level since 1940. That's more than 75 years. And the reduction in the number of the troops is expected to continue. So how can the military possibly keep you safe? Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North is here to go on the record.
They can't. The basic problem is, look, the purpose of our military is to deter war, and if you have to fight one, to win it. Well, the size and capabilities of the U.S. military are all dependent on the threat to this country and the risk of not doing something. So this president has totally failed on the process of defining and prioritizing our adversaries. He's going to Japan, he's going to go to Hiroshima, and he's going to talk about a world without nukes. That's la-la land. That's utopia. It's never going to happen.
Is this due to sequestration? I mean, I assume the president would say because he doesn't have the funds from Congress, or not. Is that fair or not?
Well, it's not fair because a president's job is to prioritize those risks. In other words, you sit down and you do an analysis of what the risks are. What are our risks? Tier 1 risk is nuclear annihilation, okay? That's the greatest risk we face as a country. What do you have to do to deal with that? Number 2, the fact that the Russians and the Chinese are expansionist all over their parts of the world, and the great threats to our allies in Eastern Europe and all over Asia. I mean, if you go to Manila, you go to Taiwan, you go to Seoul, you go to anywhere out there, they will tell you we're at risk from what they're doing in the Chinese, and the same thing in Eastern Europe. Third level, tier 3, if you will, radical Islam, okay? Radical Islam is not an existential threat to the United States of America, but nuclear annihilation is. You now have the North Koreans building submarines that can launch missiles into the United States. We've done nothing to build a nuclear ballistic missile capability or a defense against nuclear ballistic missiles.
What do you think President Obama would say if he were sitting here?
Well, I don't think this, look, he failed National Security 101. He never sat down that I know of with, as President Reagan did every year, we sat down and we went through those kinds of things and prioritized those threats and then said, these are the things that we need to have to do to deal with them. And so, yes, the military was much larger. We had the threat of a Soviet empire. And once that went away, we stopped doing that kind of thing. We had 9/11 that focused all of our attention on dealing with radical Islam. It's not just Al-Qaeda. It's not just one small group or another. It is radical Islam, is a tier 3 threat, but it's not existential.
What do you think Donald Trump would do?
Well, look, at the next president, whoever it is going to have enormous challenges because the sequestration is going to take the Army down even further, and the Navy, the Air Force. The Marine Corps is the only organization that actually maintained its end strength this year. We now have more, get this, in World War II we had fewer than 200 admirals and 7,000 ships. Today we have more admirals than ships. How about parity? We give every admiral's own ship.
It's sort of interesting. Mark Landler of the New York Times was here on Friday, and he's done a whole foreign policy analysis between Clinton and Obama, and he portrays us much more hawkish. I mean, I don't know what she would do with the military, but that she's much more hawkish.
Well, look, I don't know. I mean, but I will tell you that the next president has got to start rebuilding this military. He has got to deal with the existential threats to this country. Consider this. The nuclear weapons proliferation that's occurred under this administration is a direct threat to every single American on this territory.
Colonel, nice to see you, sir.
Good to be with you.